What if the quiet answer we've been waiting for was never going to arrive on a podium, but in the way two lineups are scribbled on a whiteboard at the last second? What if the most important decision for the Lakers isn't a blockbuster headline, but a subtle rebalance that changes how April feels at the elbows and the corners? And what if the player at the center of that decision calm face, heavy shoulders, playoff shot making just became the hinge for a locker room that's trying to be both urgent and patient at the same time? Here's my promise. We're going to unpack the full picture without spoiling the actual update too soon roll. Rotation logic, cap angles that matter, the defensive trade-offs no one likes to talk about, and the way this coaching staff uses the first 10 games like a lab, not a panic button. We'll look at Rui Hachimura through the three lenses that count. What's best for winning now? What protects the season's ceiling? And what keeps the locker room honest? You're watching Lakers News Fan Report. If you live for clear-eyed breakdowns with the heart rate of a real fan, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a like so this reaches more Laker diehards before the takes get stale. Let's get into it together. Introduction. The Lakers core is loud. LeBron's gravity bends the court. Luka's pace turns possessions into puzzles. Austin Reeves is the connective tissue that keeps runs alive. DeAndre Ayton stabilizes the paint when the game gets muddy. The fifth piece has to be an amplifier, not a spotlight hog. That's the constant tension with Rui Hachimura. He's good enough to finish, smooth enough to fit, and specific enough that small tweaks around him change everything about his impact. Every season writes new math. Last year's sweet spots mid-post touches on the left block, ghost screens for Luka, elbow jumpers when the defense overhelped on LeBron were real, but they came with bills due on the other end. The league has no mercy for in-between defenders. Your fifth starter needs a plan for ball screens, a plan for switch and scram, and a plan for the one possession that decides the night. Rui's value lives in how he turns tough twos into reliable threes on the scoreboard, not by shooting them, but by making the defense choose between helping on stars or giving up his clean look. That's leverage. But leverage has to cash out in stops. The front office and the staff know what fans know. Rui next to LeBron, Luka, and Reeves can look like a smooth jazz quartet when the ball pops. Rui with bench lineups can look like a bulldozer that keeps scoring when stars sit. The hard part is picking which value you want first and how much of the other you can still hold. You don't get to have everything. You choose a starting theme, and you protect the counterpunch. There's also the human layer. Rui isn't loud. He's a temperature guy. The building's energy changes when he sees two go down early. You can feel the bench lean in when he strings together a defensive stand followed by a face-up make. Veterans in the room respect players who don't leak energy. Rui's vibe is steady, but steady can look passive when the game needs a punch. That perception matters fair or not when coaches choose between first five and first sub. Zoom out to the schedule. The first month sets habits. This staff likes to open with simple rules. Win the paint touches, win the free throws, win the defensive glass, and live with the rest. The fifth starter has to help you bank those rules without asking for extra oxygen. If he can do that, you get to experiment with the fancy stuff later Spain actions for Luka. Split cuts for LeBron at the nail, inverted pick and rolls for Reeves when teams chase him off pin downs. Rui's ability to sit in the gaps and punish late help is the green light for that menu. But if he's chasing two jobs at once, the menu shrinks. There's a temptation to solve all this with rumors. You heard them. Trade Rui for a cleaner defender. Move him to a bench microwave role. Extend him now to stabilize the room. Kick the can to the deadline. Each path has a cost. Swapping him for defense risks losing the one non-star who can bail out a dead possession without junking the spacing. Parking him on the bench risks making your second units too, dependent on his self-creation, and losing the reps that matter alongside the big four. Extending too early ties your hands before you know how the five-man chemistry actually breathes. Waiting too long invites noise. That's the Rubik's Cube dot, so yes, there's urgency. Not panic urgency. Because the West doesn't wait while you figure out your fifth starter in public. Someone has to hold the rope while the Stars conserve energy for the last 6 minutes. Someone has to eat the ugly matchups so LeBron and Luka can scheme economy, not heroism. And someone has to make sure Ayton isn't left on an island when teams spam empty corner actions into his lap. The question is whether that someone is Rui on night 1, Rui on night 60, or Rui is the closer without the announcement now to the part you came for. The update is this. The Lakers have internally aligned on Rui Hachimura as a core piece whose role will be clarified by design in the opening stretch. Expect him to remain in the primary five to start games, with deliberate second-unit stints where he's the featured scorer, and closing decisions tied to defensive matchups and hot hand. Translation: stability first, flexibility late. No trade push, no demotion headline. A tighter plan to maximize what he does best while protecting the team's defensive floor. Let's be precise about the language. This isn't an official decree with a bow on it. It's the staff's working structure, the kind that shows up in substitution patterns and play call priorities more than in quotes. Update here means the decision-making inside the building has cooled on the binary starter or bench and settled on the rhythm that suits both Rui and the group. When you see him open the first and third, then return early in the second to prop the offense when one star sits, that's not drift. That's the plan. Why does this make basketball sense? First, because Rui's best minutes with Luka and LeBron come when he's a third or fourth action finisher, not a first action trigger. Starting lets him stand in the right corners of the early script. Ghost, slip, flare, punish. He doesn't need high usage to hurt you there. He needs stability. Second, the second unit runway taps into his power gain two-man actions with Reeves. Duck-ins against small wings, controlled post-ups that force help and open rhythm threes for your bench shooters. That is how you avoid the dreaded star rest scoring droughts. Defensively, the update is less about hiding him and more about giving him a plan. Early possessions. Sit on the body, keep the ball in front, live with contested twos, and force wings into pull-ups. Switch and scram when teams go small. Fight through when they go big. Closing time? If the matchup turns into a sprint relay with elite movement shooters, you might see a defensive sub. If it's a bruiser series with mid-post diet, you ride his strength and rebounding. The point is clarity. Players thrive on knowing what wins them extra stints. Another reason this works. It respects the locker room's internal logic. LeBron and Luka need reliability, not fireworks. Ayton needs a forward who tags rollers on time and doesn't sell out on digs. Reeves needs a partner who can set a screen, slip with purpose, and catch on the move without panic. Rui checks all those boxes. When the staff sends the message, we're starting you, we're trusting you, and we're going to hold you to a defensive standard to close, it tells the room, roles are earned. Adjustments are real. Accountability is shared. Let's talk numbers philosophy without drowning in decimals. Rui's value isn't a spreadsheet trick. It's how his shot diet simplifies what's hard. He hits the catch and shoot when stars draw two. He keeps the mid-range honest when the paint collapses. He crashes the weak side without fouling. The Lakers' best lineups don't need 5 creators. They need 3 creators and 2 silencers of noise. Rui is a noise silencer when his touches are curated, not chased. Cap context matters because choices ripple. Keeping Rui as a start and stagger piece preserves flexibility for in-season calls. You're not front-loading a role that forces a trade later, and you're not burying an asset that loses value on the bench. If by midseason, a wing with elite defense and passable offense shakes loose, you can talk without moving desperation. If the current build hums, you hold. Window management is about avoiding corners you can't exit. There's a narrative angle, too. Stability around Rui calms the daily storm. Fans stop reading tea leaves from one cold night. Rui stops trying to prove his job with every touch. The staff stops answering the same question dressed in different ties. Quiet is underrated during a long season. Quiet lets LeBron pick his spots. Quiet lets Luka trust actions. Quiet lets Ayton work on timing. Quiet lets Reeves be a metronome. Quiet wins in February when legs are heavy. Now, about the why not bench him and let him cook as a six-man argument. It's not crazy. Bench Rui gives you scoring pop and keeps your starters more defensive. But it also risks a split personality. Elite starts, sputtering middle, frantic finishes. The update effectively splits the difference: start for flow, stagger for punch, close for need. You don't waste warm-up energy against second units. And you don't leave your bench asking role players to manufacture points from dead stops. Balance beats purity. Matchup chess with this plan gets fun. Against switch-heavy teams, Rui slips and seals demand early tags that cough up corner threes for Reeves. Against drop with heavy nail help, his short roll catch buys Luka a pocket pass and Ayton a free tip in lane. Against wings who funnel left, his right shoulder drive collapses the box and sets up LeBron's baseline cut. You can feel the offense breathe when the fifth starter understands his gravity isn't fame. It's geometry. There's a mental skill we don't praise enough: being ready to finish games you didn't start hot. That's the test built into this update. Rui will have nights where his early jumper rims out and his defender stands at his hip like they're sharing a chair. The staff still wants him ready at the 6-minute mark of the fourth because closing time doesn't care about the first quarter. The willingness to re-enter as a closer when the matchup flips is a grown man job. That's where seasons are made. Let's be honest about the pitfalls. If Rui's defensive reads lag, the staff will yank the rope late and go with a stopper. If his shooting dips for a long stretch, fan noise comes back. The cushion here is communication. When everyone knows, here's your script, here's where we bend it, here's what earns the last shift, problems shrink. Without that, the fifth starter becomes the city's daily referendum. No one wins that way. Think about LeBron management, too. The truest gift a fifth starter can give a 40-minute legend in year 22 is uncomplicated possessions. Box out your man so LeBron doesn't have to. Set the back screen so he doesn't fight through two bodies. Hit the open shot so he doesn't burn a possession hunting rescue points. Rui's game is adult enough to do all three, and the update encouraged them by design, not by accident. Luka's comfort is more subtle. He thrives when the first read is clean and the second read is late. Rui gives him that with angle screens that don't look like screens and with cuts that arrive on the frame, not a beat early. The decision to keep Rui in the early choreography protects Luka's brainpower for when the game tightens. You don't want your star burning 3 chess clocks in the first quarter to generate an open corner 3 that a smarter script would deliver. Naturally, a YTON benefits most if Rui becomes a consistent low man and a credible spacer. Tag, release, rebound. It's not glamorous, but it's why bigs play with joy. When Ayton trusts that Rui is absorbing body on the weak side and will be there on the kickout, his own defensive timing loosens. That's when you see the late contest go from almost to smothered. Where does Reeves fit in? Everywhere. But especially in the second unit stints with Rui. 2-man game, short roll, kick, relocate, repeat. Those are the possessions that turn a 3-point edge into a 9-point cushion. The update stagger is basically a vote of confidence in that chemistry. What about the deadline? The cleanest byproduct of this plan is optionality. If the team cruises, you don't fix what isn't broken. If an elite defender becomes available, you can ask honest questions without panic. Does upgrading defense in the 5th slot raise your playoff ceiling more than Rui's self-creation and shot-making in wing time? The answer might change by opponent. That's okay. Adults can hold 2 ideas at once. Leadership, this matters too. Part of growing a locker room around 2 superstars is showing the rest of the roster that roles aren't political. They're earned, monitored, and adjusted with respect. The way this Rui plan is implemented will echo. If it's fair and transparent, young players learn that clarity follows work. If it's jerky and reactive, the room tightens. The update tells me this staff understands the difference. There's also a city component. Laker fans are discerning. They can spot theater for theater's sake. What they want is a team with a clear soul. Start fast, defend your glass, take shots you can live with when May gets loud. Rui's steady contribution to that soul-making makeable shots and contested rebounds look routine is the kind of thing that never trends and always wins. One more small thing with big implications. Inbound plays. Closing units die from bad inbound spacing. Rui's frame and hands are a safety valve against late-game chaos. He gets you on the floor with 2.9 on the count instead of a 5-second violation that ruins a night. Details like that are why staffs love trustworthy fifth starters, even if they aren't on highlight reels doc. So, in plain words, the update centers on role clarity, not role demotion. On maximizing strengths while building a firmer closing standard. On starting with stability, staggering for punch, and finishing for need. That's adult basketball. That's what winning teams do when they stop chasing labels and start chasing possessions. My opinion. Clean and simple. This is the right call for October, and the most honest way to learn what this group really is by December. Keeping Rui in the primary five while scripting his second unit. Dominance protects the offense and keeps the defensive ceiling in your hand late. Could it change? Of course. Matchups, health, and shooting variants always have a vote. But as of now, it fits who the Lakers want to be. And to be completely transparent, this is an informed read of how the staff is shaping the plan. It's still speculation until you see it night after night. Before we wrap, I want to hear you. Do you prefer Rui as the fifth starter with a heavy stagger? Or would you rather see a defensive specialist start and Rui become the first sub and closer? Does this update make you more confident about April lineups? Or do you worry we'll need a trade to raise the defensive bar? Drop your thoughts below. Let's build the smartest comment section in Laker Nation.